I don't know who this is gonna help, but I know it's gonna help somebody. My name is Victoria Lene, and I was saved miraculously by our living God from a life of complete misery. From an outside perspective, it may have seemed like I was living a life that everyone dreamed of. That's because it was showcased to be that way, but the price that I was paying for that lifestyle, it cost me a lot. It cost me a lot. When I was around 19 years old, I became a stripper at a gentleman's club in New York City. And when it came to my faith, I was subscribing and coming to agreement with more new age stuff. That's what I felt as if I resonated with at the time, knowing now in Jesus that there's a demonic hand over that belief system, in a sense where if you declare something, it will be given unto you, no matter what it is, no matter if it's going to hurt you, if you deem it as appealing and you declare it to be so, it can be given to you, but for a price, right? And a lot of us don't think about it this way because we're so miserable in our present lives that we just proclaim that if we had X, Y, or Z, our life would be 10 times better, right? So I was living with my family and I felt very misunderstood by my family. I was very influenced by social media, clothing, and things of that nature. So on top of living with my family in not the most modern looking home, wanting a space that was aesthetically pleasing, wanting to be on my own, wanting to be able to indulge in expensive clothing and to be desired, I decided to start stripping. And it started off with a high. I was accumulating so much money, and then after 9 months of doing so, I was able to move out. And I was living in New York, kind of, I guess, the life that I envisioned that I wanted when I wasn't doing these things, when I was just working in a 9 to 5 at an Amazon warehouse. But the price of that I was paying to live that life costed me my purity. It costed me my life. I became super desensitized. I was always struggling with promiscuity. I was always operating from a place of lust, even before I became a stripper, because I was exposed to a lot of sexual material from a very, very young age that was a part of me that was attacked by Satan from such a young age. And God allowed it to happen because he knew it was going to make me strong. And yeah, again, I'm saved not because of anything that I did, but because he's so merciful. But I don't blame him for the things that I had been exposed to. I don't blame him for, becoming a stripper. I don't blame him for sitting back and allowing these things to occur, because if they didn't occur, then you wouldn't be hearing this story right now, and people wouldn't be touched, and my faith wouldn't be so rooted. It's by his grace. But to get back into the story, I was able to experience things that a lot of people who haven't touched materialistic wealth want to experience. I was able to go to Coachella. I was driving a very fancy car. I was wearing very fancy clothes. I lived in a very fancy apartment with very, very fancy stuff. All of which a big chunk of my money went into marijuana that I was using to just give my life some color here and there, because without it, my life was very black and white, and I couldn't stand it. So I think it took like a few years for me to actually realize that my life was miserable. I think I was riding on the highs of it for a while, and the more I went and danced, the more I became numb to everything that I was doing. You don't notice the demonic stuff going on around you when you are operating from a demonic state and you are coming into agreement with demonic things. So, yeah. So there's a false light that I thought that I was emulating because I was so subscribed to New Age. And this New Age mentality kind of tells you that Like you can kind of you can be a light in a room of darkness by your own strength without knowing like where light comes from. Like we're just thinking that we can just, right, like connect to a random source and then we emulate light. But Jesus says that he is the truth, the way, and the life, and those who follow him are able to emulate his light. He is light. He is light. He made all things. He's the author of life. He made this world. He made us, right? So because of that, he is the one and only light. Like there is no like light that we can randomly just grasp because we ask the universe, like, you know what I mean? He has dominion over the universe. The universe has no authority. But that's just like a completely different video. But yeah, I guess to cut the story short, like I think like 3 or 4 years into dancing, I went into this super traumatic thing with a medium. I pray that the Lord blesses her and her family. But yeah, I got trapped into this thing with a medium because even though I was stripping and taking off my clothes for a living and just like selling my body to a bunch of different guys, prostitution, if you will, I think like a lot of girls that are dancers can relate and say like that they don't appreciate being called prostitutes or even strippers because there's a level of shame that comes with dancing, and we don't want to compartmentalize ourselves into like a box of just like straight up sex work. Like, you know, it's rare that someone's a stripper and will come forth and actually label themselves that. Usually the term is dancer. But like I said, that ties in with the shame. So yeah, I think like sometime like after 3 or 4 years or so, I got into like this in relations with like a medium who approached me actually on like a random night out, and I was very vulnerable. At that point I started to feel the effects of my job, like actually how miserable I was, how much I craved to be in a genuine relationship, how much I craved God without knowing, but also feeling like I have this lifestyle that needs to be maintained financially and I didn't know how to get out, right? So I was kind of like in the beginning of like feeling that, and that's when the medium kind of approached me and started saying all these things about me that were true. But I think because, you know, I know because I wasn't covered by the blood of Jesus, I didn't have like actual real definitive protection over me. She was able to kind of see into my life, and that's what happens when you aren't covered, is that you are susceptible to sorcery and stuff like that, which is the sad truth, but it is true. That's why Jesus Christ is the light of the world. But yeah, I could make like an entirely separate video about what I experienced with the medium. But essentially it involved like her just proclaiming a bunch of lies over my life, saying that like I had dark spirits kind of like living within me that needed to be extracted, X, Y, and Z. She would use crystal, she used tarot, things that I had already idolized before I met her. So that's why it didn't raise a flag to me that she was using these things. Rather, like I kind of saw her as a role model because of her discernment. So I perceived her to be very wise. But that was like the complete opposite. She was promising me deliverance that only Jesus could give. But because I didn't know Jesus, I was trafficking all this money in order to free myself of the darkness that I was experiencing. But I didn't know that that could only be washed by Jesus, that he died for it and I didn't have to pay anything. So yeah, that was very traumatic. I think from like, this can be taken in so many different ways from listeners, but like you don't really know what I experienced. Like it was very painful. She is forgiven, but you only really know if you know. It was a super dark valley. It was super dark. So when I came out of that, I was trying to recover spiritually because I came out with a lot of trauma. And I went to the temple, didn't really do much, just kind of confirmed that I was manipulated. But spiritually, like I was torn. I was actually like so torn. And I was still stripping too. So like I was going through hell. Like I was really going through it. And then I started going to church slowly, but I was still stripping. So I was still living a life of like wickedness I didn't turn from my wicked ways. I was still worshiping money. But I think, like, in the Bible, it says you can't serve God and money at the same time because you're going to love one and hate the other. And it's so true, because during that time where I was trying to lay my life down for God, but still stripping, I was like so tormented spiritually. Like, I was living in complete darkness. Like, I'm telling you, like, the only time I really ever felt anything real was when I sat and worshiped. I would bawl, but I didn't understand why. I didn't even like understand who Jesus was because I wasn't reading the word. It wasn't until like I read the word and like actually like got to know Jesus, the light of this world, God who became flesh and decided to come down and die for everything that I did. Like, it wasn't until I read that until like I was saved. And that's when I was like, dang, like every demonic door that was open in my life, from the black magic and from stripping, like, and you guys know how long I've been doing that. I've been doing that for almost like 5 years at that point. Like, every single door that was open in my life that was allowing just like demonic spirits to move around in my life and create chaos, like all of it was just closed just by like surrendering. And I don't think people understand how deep it is, right? Like, we can be so deaf to it because we think that it's some religious whatever, but it's not about religion. Like, we genuinely live in a fallen world, and us human beings are like babies. We need saving, and there's something bigger outside of us, and it's not the universe, it's God, it's Jesus Christ. And like, I just pray that whoever hears this, if you're a stripper and you feel stuck, because I know you do, because it's not pure, it's not God's intention. So naturally, us women deep down are always going to feel shameful and heartbroken for the job that we're doing. The only way that you're going to get out and actually be fulfilled is by calling upon the name of Jesus and surrendering your life to him and giving up your worldly ways. Like, you're not gonna find your way out through fame. You're just gonna be another vessel for the enemy to use you, you know? Like, you're not stuck. The things you're afraid about, not being able to pay your rent, the things that you may be scared of, he takes care of them, and he loves you, and he saved my life. And I'm so grateful to be created by him. I'm so grateful that he calls me his child. You know, it's not by anything that I have did, but by his grace I'm saved and I'm set free. And like, a lot of people don't even really know what that means because they have never experienced his light. So yeah, thank you.